Good afternoon, family. Thanks for checking out today's video. If you are new here, my name is Jonathan, and I created this channel as a way to record my progress as I work towards my goal of losing 300 pounds in 3 years. If you'd like to join the family, hit that subscribe button. Also, click on the bell icon so you'll get alerted when I go live. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up, I'd appreciate it as well. If you'd like to participate on the discussion, you can join me on my live streams that I do most weekdays, or outside of the live stream. If you want to reach out to me, you can consider joining our Discord. There's a link for that down in the description below. If you're interested in getting some ideas of the meals that we enjoy, we've created a Pinterest board that there's a link to in the description that shares some of our family's favorite whole food plant-based meals. Today is day 594 of my 3-year challenge. I've used a combination of extended water fasting and a whole food plant-based diet to lose over 215 pounds so far. If anybody has any non-scale victories they'd like to share, I'd love to hear your non-scale victories. If you are struggling to get started or struggling to stay on your diet, I'd love to hear from you. Maybe we can figure something out or try to help you out to get back on track, and looking at what hurdles are keeping you from getting started on your diet or sticking to your diet. And then what things are you going to do to make staying on your diet easier than the alternative? Pretty Girl's Mom's checking in saying hello. Hello, Pretty Girl's Mom. I hope you're doing wonderful today. And I hope everybody had a great evening and a wonderful day as well. We're going to switch over to this here. So it is Friday. I hope everybody is gearing up for the weekend. We have Father's Day coming up, and I know that can cause some temptation and lots of other things that happen when you get together as a family or as a group. I'm going to go ahead. I did not take a lot of great photos of the food that I took or have eaten since yesterday, but I will share the couple photos that I did take. So let me see if it's all set up. There we go. That was dinner last night. We had our mega veggie chili, one of our favorites and a staple in our diet is the mega veggie chili. We have it at least once a week, and it's really very enjoyable. And last night was no different. Lots of great ingredients in there. We have chickpeas, corn, red peppers, celery, onions. Shoot. I kind of have to answer this. So I am going to, let me see what I can do here. Hold on, guys. This is not the best time for this. Okay, I'm back. It was a quick phone call there. Sorry, guys. Just some work stuff I had to take. So let me see if this is still working. So back to dinner yesterday. Mega veggie chili. Really, it was great. Sorry, I'm a little bit flustered, but lots of wonderful things in the mega veggie chili that we had for dinner last night. Didn't take any photos, but I did have some oranges, bananas, things like that as well yesterday. I had a meeting after dinner, so it got me out of the house, which is nice. So I wasn't around to do any snacking. Let's see here. Oh, here's a photo of my dog that isn't very clear. Needs to get a haircut. There you go. And then this morning, I had some Ezekiel bread with some nut butter as well as our regular oatmeal, but I did not take any photos of the oatmeal because I did not think about it this morning. So, Christy checking in saying hello. Hello, Christy. Sorry, I was on a phone call there I had to take, but I'm back now. So I'm sorry about that. Let me get out of this here. So, just got kind of a long weekend coming up here in the States, at least because Monday is a federal holiday. I'm not sure what that's going to do with my work schedule for Monday. I'm still planning on working on Monday, so I'm anticipating that I will be live streaming at my normal time, but I won't know until Monday what I decide to do, I guess. But let's see. So for really today, I have been feeling awesome. I talked a little bit yesterday that I felt a little backed up, and now I feel like some of that is past. I feel much better today than I did yesterday. And I really feel like things are in the right direction. It's kind of unfortunate that the day I weighed in was kind of the day I was feeling bloated, I guess, for lack of a better term, because I know that I'm a little bit lighter today than I even was yesterday getting on the scale. So things are going in the right direction. It's always tough, though. Next week's weigh-in is only going to be 6 days between the 2 days, so it's always nerve-wracking for me whether or not I will have a loss. And then we do have Father's Day weekend, and that is something that I'm not real concerned about for myself getting through Father's Day weekend. We are going to be getting together with my extended family and hanging out with them and doing a get together. And it's something at this point that we've been dealing with for a year and a half, and we kind of have a decent system, or we know what we have to do to succeed with getting through the event without having any issues. And that, comes down to either eating a good amount of food before we go there, so we're not tempted by the foods that are there, and then also preparing food for ourselves and bringing it so that we have something that we can enjoy. Probably end up being portobello mushroom caps that we grill on the that we grill. So just make sure that if you are getting together this weekend or planning on celebrating Father's Day, that you just take the appropriate steps to make sure that you can succeed. If you try to just go and, one of the things that I think, Carrie says, yes, we're going to have mushroom caps. That sounds awesome. You need to put some things in place, because if you just kind of rely on your own willpower, then you may end up having to fight yourself with the decisions you make. Whereas if you make a plan and you stick to that plan, then it's easier to succeed versus just being like, you know what, if there's nothing for me there, I just won't eat, because that is really the toughest thing do is to be hungry and then resist temptation, because it's so against our natural instinct. We are designed to consume food, and when you have to actively make a choice not to eat, it becomes more difficult. Pretty Girl's mom says that they loved the grilled marinated portobellos. Yeah. Carrie's got a pretty good recipe she gets together, and I definitely enjoy the mushrooms. I generally eat them just as if like they were like a steak, I guess. I don't necessarily like putting them on Ezekiel bread or a bun, but so yeah, we got Father's Day weekend, and then Monday's a holiday here. And I know how difficult, it can be to stick to a routine when everything else is getting shaken up, and then next weekend we're traveling. So I won't be streaming a week from today. I should be able to stream on the Thursday, but I won't be streaming on that Friday of next week. But, so just if you are doing something this weekend, just plan appropriately. Make sure that you have everything in place so you can succeed. That's the big thing, is that if you got to take an abundance of food or whatever you have to do to get through the weekend. Man, I really feel like I don't have anything to talk about today. If anybody has any questions, I'd love to hear your questions. I was outside cutting grass for a couple hours, and I really have been, the weather's great and it's nice to get out, get the sun shining on me. And it does feel like it energizes me somewhat, and for mainly the big thing is that 90% of the day I'm inside. I'm very rarely outside. And then when I am outside, it's usually not for an hour and a half doing yard work, or cutting grass. So usually just outside to go from the house to the car. So it was nice to get out, do some work outside, get the sun shining on me. I hope I didn't get sunburn on the back of my neck. It feels a little bit hot, but I think that it will be good overall. Oh man. It's just such a crazy deal with this, because I don't know. I'm really happy with how I feel right now. I have been on the diet and sticking to it for a few weeks again, and it just feels like I'm in a good spot with it. Pretty Girl's mom said that they were watching a video of Dr. Lisle talking about the cram circuit, and it was very interesting. Yeah, I really like Dr. Lisle. Just his approach to things is really awesome, and he gives a good perspective on things. And then he also recommends the diet that I eat. So I'm a big fan of Dr. Lisle, but I'm not sure what the cram circuit is exactly. I'd be interested in knowing what you say, what that is about. And then you said it's info that's not in the Pleasure Trap. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the Pleasure Trap was written, gosh, probably over a decade ago now. And, there's a lot of new information that we're getting about, our digestive system and just the studies that are being done, and also the more people that are adopting this type of lifestyle with the whole food plant-based, and then the salt, oil, sugar free. I'll Google it real quick and see what it says about cram circuit, because I don't know anything about the cram circuit. It's, what's funny, you type in cram circuit and Dr. Lisle comes up a lot. So this is something that he talks about he must talk about this a decent bit, but I don't see where it defines it here. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not going to get too. The cram circuit says here, the way we are surrounded by certain foods is totally unnatural. I'm not sure what that is. Goodness, lots of phone calls today. Let's see. You said, yep. So, yeah. We're surrounded by certain foods that are. So it says here, according to Dr. Lisle, naturally speaking, high calorie dense foods would not normally be ready available day to day, but we have surrounded ourselves with it. This is his take on it. Let's see. Any food over 150 calories per 100 gram would be considered a high calorie dense food. The calorie count of some foods is extremely high, meat, oils, fat, sugars being the worst. Naturally speaking, we would not come across these foods often or without a great deal of hard work. And naturally speaking, when we do, then we would eat as much of them as possible. In fact, we have a tendency to cram the food in until we are overstuffed if there is enough of it. This is a survival mechanism, and who knows when we would come across such food again. Yeah, so that's yeah, so it makes me think of a couple times when, before I started my diet, when I was eating unhealthy food, I definitely had experiences where I couldn't understand why I didn't stop eating, and it was in particular with the one example I'm thinking of in my head was with this pizza that I would order from a place near us, and I would always just overeat it. I would eat it, until it started to get uncomfortable in my stomach. And in fact, one time I had eaten so much pizza that I got sick from how much I ate, and it came back up. And it just seemed so crazy to me that I got myself to that point. And something that so one of the questions that if I ever had a chance to talk to Dr. Lisle about the Pleasure Trap book, one of the questions that I would want to ask him would be about the motivational triad. So the motivational triad is the three aspects that drive all creatures, not just humans, but any creature in nature. And the three aspects of it is that we seek to avoid pain, we want to seek pleasure, and we want to conserve energy. Those are the three aspects of the motivational triad. Avoid pain, seek pleasure, conserve energy. And I kind of thought it was interesting that they separated the conserve energy out of the instead of having just avoid pain and seek pleasure and being a dual motivational system, they added this conserve energy as one of the aspects to the motivational triad. And in interviews that I've heard between Dr. Lisle and Chef AJ and Goldhamer, they talked about how Dr. Lisle was actually the one that wanted to separate the conserve energy from the and have that be one of the three legs of the motivational triad. And the question that I always kind of had come up in my head was, why would they separate the conserve energy, but also not talk about how we have this drive to consume energy. And I think that's where this cram circuit comes into play, is that that no matter what your diet is, you seek to eat as many calories as possible within that diet. And I have found that with this whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, sugar-free diet, that I find myself still seeking that full belly and to get it as full as possible. So for me to do that, a lot of times I'll either grab some fruit, or I will eat rice, or I will eat potatoes, or shredded wheat is a real common thing for me. If I'm feeling hungry later in the day and I want to get a snack, I will make a bowl of shredded wheat, put some raisins on it, or I will toast some Ezekiel bread and put nut butter on it. And to most people, that's not, especially like the shredded wheat, it's not a high dopamine response food. And so you wouldn't think that there would be as much of a drive to eat something that's considered bland like shredded wheat as there is a drive to eat something that's rich in calories like a slice of pizza. But regardless of my diet, I still have an instinct to eat a large volume of food. And so that was one of the aspects of the Pleasure Trap book that I was always curious as to why they didn't make it a motivational quadrilateral instead of a motivational triad. Because I think that there is something in us that pushes us to eat a large volume of food. And Chef AJ talks about that a lot in her book. The secret to ultimate weight loss is the volume eating. And there was a book that she had read that I think it was called Volumetrics, that kind of started her down the path of calorie density and how important that the calorie density is to our diet. And in this cram circuit, this article here, they talk about the density of foods and how our modern foods have a calorie density that our ancestors never would have had access to. I can go to a fast food restaurant and I can order a meal that has more calories in it than some of our ancestors ate in a week. But because it's available to us, we eat it, and it adds fat to us, and it's not natural. These foods just wouldn't be, even if you were to say they were natural, like you would eat cow or pig or chicken in the wild, the access is far greater now than it was 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago. So there is so calorie density is very important to our diet, and that's something I truly believe has been what makes this diet successful, is that in order to get a lot of calories, you have to eat a lot of food. And I still enjoy eating a lot of food. And that is so wild to me that I can go home last night. I can have 2 bowls of dinner of that mega veggie chili. I probably had Ezekiel bread last night. I know I had oranges and a banana or 2 last night as well. And I can come in today and I can get on the scale and I'm a pound lighter than I was yesterday. I didn't eat any less. Well, I didn't eat that much less volume of food than I would have eaten 2 years ago. But because the only thing my body can do with the fiber is pass it, then it doesn't end up processing it and storing it as fat on my hips. And that was not the case when I was eating things like fast food junk, is that it would use some of the food that I was eating for the energy, but then it would store 100% of the fat because it didn't need it. Now the the grams of fat in my diet are very low versus what they used to be. Stan and Hope says, good point. Stan, I watched the interview that Chef AJ did with Dr. McDougall on Monday, and I saw that you were on the beginning of that interview, and I really wanted to commend you for getting on there and talking to them and sharing your story. I'm sure that it is a difficult story to share with where you're at with your progress, but I'm really glad to hear that you're getting things back on track and you're trying to figure things out. I think that your story speaks to how difficult the process is to get away from this food, because you were in a position where they talk, Dr. Goldhamer talks a lot about how that they don't see patients until they reach that kind of point where it's their last resort, and the pain is to a point where it's unbearable, and that's the only thing that gets them to the point where they're willing to change. And that sounds like that's what motivated you to start your weight loss or following the McDougall program when you started this. And even though you knew what to do to get away from that pain that you were feeling, once you got to a point where that pain was less or not as bad, then you start to convince yourself to let those bad things back into your diet, and it slowly got you back to where you were. The great thing is that you know what to do to get back on track, and you found a solution that seems to work for you, to help you, to help you with what you're doing. So I'm glad to hear that you're back on track. And I do wish you amazing success, because I cannot imagine being in your position, dealing with the inflammatory arthritis and the rheumatoid arthritis and things like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing of your success, and I'm glad that I got a chance to see you talk on Chef AJ's show. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that when I saw you. And if anybody if you get a chance, watch the first 20 or 30 minutes of Chef AJ's interview with Dr. McDougall from this past Monday. The rest of the interview is about the lower gastrointestinal tract. So if you're looking for the title, that's really awesome. So, and it's great that Chef AJ gives people a platform to share stories like that. That's where a lot of you guys got, that's where a lot of you guys found me, was from when I did my interview on Chef AJ's show. Carrie says here that she has family members with rheumatoid arthritis, and she says that she looked up the article that got you started, but chickened out before sending or posting it to those family members. Yeah, there was a article that Dr. McDougall had published probably 15 years ago, I think, or almost 20 years ago, that was the article that Stand and Hope read that got her started down that path. So, yeah, it's tough to push people to do this without them coming to us for asking for advice. And I'm hoping that as I get closer to my goal, I do have some family members that finally say, hey, what are you doing? And I'm interested in trying to do that too, because I know at least from my perspective, I probably wouldn't have listened to anybody. I mean, I did have family members that would make some comments that I needed to do something, not that they would have a solution for me, just that I needed to get away from where I was. And that was something that, as I mentioned, like Dr. Goldhamer has talked about how many times it takes a somebody having a heart attack or having some life-threatening diagnosis before they really get serious and go at it. And I suppose I'm a little unique in that way, that I didn't go to the doctor and have them tell me I had diabetes, or I didn't have a stroke or heart attack that caused me to get started on this. But I did have daily pain that I was just ignoring. Slowly, kind of like just over time, it was slowly eating away, but you just get used to it. If you're a quarter pound heavier today than you were yesterday, then you deal with it. And then eventually you just keep getting heavier and heavier. And I'm glad that I was able to find a solution for myself before I had some sort of debilitating event that forced my hand. I chose to do this versus being forced to do this. So that's something that I wish I could convince everybody to try to eat this way. And Dan Hope says to Carrie that you would send it. You never know. It may help, or even years later, they may go back to it. Or if they read it and it doesn't change their mind today, maybe years later, they get to a point where they say, you know what's the harm in trying to do it with my diet? Because a lot of what we run into these days is a supposed, prescription's going to fix your problem. And a lot of times the prescriptions don't fix the problem. They mask the pain, or they mask what's going on. And it's wild to think of how many things can be healed just by our diet alone, just by making better food choices. So next weekend we're going to be around some of them. So Carrie says she might bring it up and try to work it into conversation. So that would be nice. Maybe we can hold a seminar and we can teach them all how to eat this way. Just an impromptu cooking show while we're out there. And that's going to be interesting because the event that we're going to next weekend is a family reunion, and they definitely celebrate with food. And it's actually something that we've kind of been wrestling with, the fact that everybody chips in and buys food and then they all split the cost of food. Well, was fine for us for years, but now that we're not eating the food that they're going to eat, then it's a little bit of a weird situation, because we're going to have our own little bag of food or our own little cooler of food, and then everybody else is going to be eating foods that I know. God, it's so hard not to be judgmental, but I'm going to be watching people eat this food that I know is killing them, and it's going to drive me nuts to watch them eat this food that is slowly killing them, because it was slowly killing me for years. And now that I have been able to get away from it, I just wish that I could convince everybody to get away from it, because that's, unfortunately, the best I can do, like I said, is just to be a good example. And that is going to be part of us bringing our own food and only eating healthy food and not using that get together as an excuse to go off the diet. The other kind of interesting thing with this diet is that I've like become a vegan as part of this. And so to me, the idea of eating anything that has animal products as part of it is like out the window. And there's a lot of the food that's going to be around is going to have, it's going to be covered in butter. It's going to be cheese all over it. And for me, I'm not tempted by that stuff anymore. I really have no interest in having cheese or dairy or meat products. The things that are more tempting to me are going to be the, if there's Oreos or Skittles or sodas, those are the things that are going to be tempting to me. But thankfully, most of the food will have animal products in it. So I don't have any temptation to eat those things. And it's kind of a two-part thing. One is the animal cruelty and what has to happen for that food to make it to your plate. And the other half of it is that I know how much it will tear me up inside if I decide to eat something with animal products in it after not eating anything with animal products in it for 18 months. And so that makes it easier for me to resist pretty much the cheese specifically, is just because I know that it will not go well for me if I decide to have some cheese. And so, it's just kind of an interesting situation where, in diets in the past that I've been on, there's really not been anything that's been off limits, like or that would cause me to have a real bad reaction like it will now. Carrie says that her parents also eat like this, so we'll mostly just be doing our own thing. We'll have our own food and we'll be our own little clan. They don't eat salt, oil, sugar free, but so there will be some things around that are not that are vegan but are not on my diet. But again, for me, especially with, I don't know if any of her family would ever see these videos I do, but there's a lot of relatives that I want to set a good example in front of, because I know that they would benefit from eating this way. So for me, it makes it easier for me to stay on diet because I want to be a good example, and I want people to see that somebody can go to this family reunion, not eat the food that's there, and still have as good a time or better time than they have without all of this processed junk food coming into my system. Because I think that a lot of people, they go to these events and they can't resist the temptation, and it makes it difficult because not everybody is in a position where they feel like they need to lose weight, and you have that fear of missing out. So you go to this family reunion and you have your skinny cousin over there eating the pasta dish that everybody loves to eat, and you're on a diet and you aren't supposed to eat that pasta dish because it's high calorie or it's not part of your program, but you see your cousins eating it and your aunts and your uncles eating it. And then you convince yourself that, well, you know what, a little bit of it isn't going to hurt. I'll just make up for it on Monday. I'll go work out extra on Monday. So that will allow me to have this traditional food that we always have at this event. And that is what just keeps you from succeeding. And I've talked a lot, I'll say it at the end of this video too, about the myth of moderate consumption, the idea that you can have a little bit of something and it's okay. That's just a trick that our mind plays on us to convince us to consume those calories, because our body has this cram circuit in it, and our body wants us to get as much of that food and cram it into our face as possible, because we don't know when we'll ever have access to food again. And that might be kind of a, I'm sure that's an evolutionary thing, is that, every meal used to be our last meal. And so we still treat every meal as if it's our last meal. So we cram in the calories. And so yeah, that's going to be interesting with, this weekend we're hanging out with my family. They hear enough of my preaching. I think I told my dad today he needs to get rid of meat. And so, they, Aunt Day's Kitchen is checking in saying, hello, Aunt Day's Kitchen. I hope you're having a great day. So my family just at this point is to the stage where they're just rolling their eyes when I bring up my diet. But, hopefully, maybe we'll get asked some questions when we're down there, because I'm sure that, there's somebody there that will be having some sort of health complication because of their weight. As unfortunate it is that that's the situation. When you get any large group of people together, there's going to be a certain percentage of them that are suffering from health consequences of their diet, and they're not blaming it on their diet. They're blaming it on genetics, or they're blaming it on something other than the food that we put in their mouth, that they put in their mouth. And I was kind of having that thought today, I guess. Carrie says that she knows a few of the cousins have been picking her mom's brain about this way of eating. And Aunt Day's Kitchen says, being a good example is the best you can do sometimes. And that's really what I'm going to do. I'm going to eat my potatoes like they're apples, and I'm going to do it with a smile on my face in front of them. And then I'm going to go run into the pool and play with the kids all day, or go on the float trip. And I'm going to show them how much energy I have while I'm eating this rabbit food, this, as they would probably assume that it is. So yeah, that's, but that's part of it, is that if, you have to go and be a good example. That's what you need to do to help those family members around you. Because like I said, it would be very easy for me to go there, and if they had something that was like, hard candies or something, that it's crazy how few things are vegan in the general diet that people eat. But if those things, even if there's things there that I would be okay with eating as a cheat item, I'm trying to think of something I've had, or Oreos, I guess, is the easiest example, because that's even though I could eat an Oreo and I wouldn't feel that guilty about it, when I'm in front of other people, I will not eat that kind of stuff. And I've talked about that on stream before too, is that I have more of a strict line about what I eat in front of people that aren't my immediate family than what I do around Carrie or the kids, because they have seen me eat things that weren't true to my diet in the past 9 months. And, but it's a little bit different, I guess, because I'm not trying to influence them as much as I'd like to influence some of these other people. So I don't have much else here. I did go 45 minutes, so I went a little bit longer than I expected. But yeah, I definitely believe this cram circuit is something that we just have to realize exists, and that, you know, like I said, part of that motivational triad, I think that there should be a fourth leg of it, and it is that we have a drive to consume energy. And the highest calorie density foods we can find is what our natural drive is to do. And Dave's Kitchen says that they live in the South, where they consider bacon a spice and not a meat and vegetable. It's ridiculous, but you gotta have bacon flavor. Yeah, for flavor. Yeah, it's yeah, I kind of was talking about, like, I feel like cheese is that way up here, you know, where we're at, is that everything's got to have cheese on it. And that just inherently gets rid of 90% of the food that's ever at a banquet or a get together, is the fact that there's some form of cheese on the food. But bacon is kind of the same way. There's lots of pigs in Iowa, so there's lots of bacon here. Taste Kitchen says, you don't think anyone would complain if we hung out for an hour? I'm sure that they wouldn't complain. I just feel like I don't have anything to talk about sometimes, and I just repeat myself. So, yeah. So, you know, this weekend coming up, I know that some of you are going to be doing get-togethers for Father's Day. Don't use that. Pretty Girl's mom said that they were watching a video today, and they said that bacon is now a Class A carcinogen. I'd be interested to check that out. If you had a link to that, maybe you could share it on our Discord if you're part of the Discord, and that it's as bad as tobacco. And you know, how many years have these food industries been trying to fight that comparison? Because tobacco fought for decades, you know, against people trying to consider it bad, and they've lost that fight. And now the food industry is dealing with the same thing, is that information's getting out there that their food is not healthy in any way and actually can hurt you. Okay, it was on the Exam Room podcast. I'll have to check that out. Is about the bacon being a Class A carcinogen. And even if it wasn't a Class A carcinogen, there's nobody out there saying bacon is health food. I'm wrong. There's people out there that say you can eat bacon and lose weight, but I don't think that those people are saying that bacon is healthy. I think that they're using ketosis as a hack to lose weight, but it's unsustainable to do that for really a very long time. You know, I think that is the craziest thing about the keto diet, is that anybody that goes on a keto diet has success for 2 or 3 weeks, but then that success starts to waver, and then their resolve for their diet starts to waver. And then they start adding carbohydrates back into their diet, and then that gets rid of all of the benefits they got from ketosis, because the second you eat something that has got carbohydrates in it, it'll kick you out of ketosis. And the reason for that is because your body prefers to burn carbohydrates. And that's what I just don't understand why people don't get. Like, if you have a vehicle and it can run on 2 different types of fuel, but it prefers the one fuel, then you would use that fuel to run it until you were forced to use the other fuel to run it. And that's the way our bodies are set up, that our bodies are set up to burn carbohydrates and use the carbohydrates as long as they have access to them. And then once the carbohydrates are gone, then it switches over to a fat burning system. And that's where ketosis comes in. And then it chooses to burn that other fuel. But it's against, if it wasn't against our natural physiology to do that, I feel like that the transition would be just as slow back, because it takes, a couple days to switch from a carbohydrate burning engine to a fat burning engine, but it doesn't take any time to switch from a fat burning system to a carbohydrate burning system. You would think that if both types of fuel were just as beneficial and just as usable by the body, that our body would also have to slowly transition to a carbohydrate diet from a fat diet, or that switching from a carbohydrate diet to a keto diet would be instantly, just like it is the other way. And then Carrie says, who could afford to be keto these days? And Stanton Hope says, right, it is so expensive. Yeah, and I don't think it's going to go down. I think that, all food prices are going up, but the meat industry food prices are going up faster than the grain industry prices are going up. And any price increase in the grain industry, anything that causes corn to get more expensive for us to consume, also means that same corn is now more expensive to feed these cattle, which then drives the price of cattle up as well, or pork, or whatever they're using to feed the corn. And so that is something that and there's lots of weird things going on in the meat industry. I think that there was a few places that there were some suspicious fires in the past few months. I saw a video yesterday from Kansas where there were thousands of cattle that died from heat exhaustion, and those animals become unusable. Somebody I was talking to today said that they heard that those thousands of cows dying wouldn't impact the price of meat. And how sad is that thousands of animals were born into this world, lived on this world for months, and them just dying because of neglect or because we didn't have the ability to keep them alive has no impact on the world. It's just crazy. And I saw that the Smithfield is closing down some of their pork production because California made changes in their laws that require animals to be treated a little bit better than they were treated. And that is a huge issue because it's a national problem, because they didn't just say that you couldn't treat these animals this way in the state of California. They said that you couldn't sell pork that was treated that way anywhere. So where I'm at in Iowa, we have lots of pig farms around here, and that pork, there's a certain percentage of that would go to California. But unless these places change their practices and the pens that these pigs were in, they can't sell that pork to California. So then their customer base gets smaller because there's a lot of people out there and there's a lot of meat that gets sent that direction. And when they built these facilities to house these pigs, they built them with with the smallest pens that they were legally allowed to do. And they poured the concrete and they put the railings in, and they set them in place in these spots. And now, to meet the demand of what the regulators want in California, they would have to essentially rebuild their plants because everything was built around this smaller space availability for these pigs. So it's really a crazy situation. And with how cheap rice and beans is, I just can't imagine trying to eat the way I used to eat. Like I don't know how much our grocery prices have gone up in the last year and a half, but I do know that there has been an increase in it. And then the meat industry is also dealing with rising prices. Carrie shared a video the other day that somebody was talking about how the hay for their cows went up like tenfold in price. Well, that's going to cause the price of those cows to go up tenfold. If it costs 10 times as much money to feed them, then they're going to be more expensive too. And there's a lag time, but with that too, because the cows that they're slaughtering today may have been fed cheaper food, but now the cows that they're going to slaughter 9 months from now had to be fed this higher cost food. So they're going to have to recover that cost from the customer because they're not going to allow it to go into their profit margin, God forbid. And so anyways, I'm definitely going to get out of here today. I think I'm going to about hit the hour mark. So there you go, Aunt Day's Kitchen. You got an hour out of me. Like I said, I don't know what my plan is for next Monday. If I'm going to go live or not, it just depends on if I go into work or if I'm into work for a long time on Monday, because we kind of have to, the building I'm in, if the government's not working, then there's not a lot of work to be done here. So I'm not sure if I'm going to come in on Monday or not. Christy says, have a great weekend. Pretty Girl's mom says, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Yes, hit the thumbs up button. Carrie says, we're having creamy polenta with mushroom and beans tonight. Yes, that sounds amazing. I really like that dish. Probably because there's nutritional yeast in the polenta. I think that is what really brings that over the top. And we don't eat a lot of nutritional yeast that I can think of. And so that is, Carrie says she likes hearing that. So I'm going to get out of here. If you haven't started your diet yet, get started right now. There's nothing coming up. I know you may have Father's Day plans this weekend, but it's whatever those plans are, whatever the event is, you can still make healthy food choices. You can choose to eat before you go. You can choose to bring food that's healthy. You can choose to not eat the junk food, and you need to make that choice because it could mean the difference between living and dying for, and it's a slow thing, but you got to make these changes, and nobody ever gets to their goal and wishes they would have waited. Nobody ever says, man, I started my diet right before Father's Day in 2020, and I really wish that I would have eaten that meal that my parents had made or we had at the Father's Day dinner that we had. Nobody ever says that. Everybody who gets to their goal looks back and wishes they would have started sooner. I'm the same way. I'm not even to my goal. I still look back and wish I would have started weeks earlier, months earlier, years earlier, and I would be in a better position than I am today. Don't fall for the 2 myths of moderation, the myth of moderate change, the idea that you can slowly go from this unhealthy, high calorie, dense diet to a healthy diet by making these little changes. I'm going to start eating salad before I eat my dinner, and then somehow that'll magically cause me to eat less at the main course. It doesn't work that way. If you want to see big changes, you have to make big changes. Also, don't fall for the myth of moderate consumption. the idea that a little bit of something is okay, that as long as you eat it in moderation, it'll be all right, is a myth. We've all tried to eat a diet of moderation. If you are overweight and you're sitting here saying, I've tried everything, most everything you tried was a diet of moderation. You tried to eat something that was unhealthy, but to just eat less of it. You should make every food choice you make be a healthy food choice. You shouldn't eat in, you shouldn't think of you shouldn't think in the vein of reducing the volume of food that you're eating. We're just not, we're naturally designed to eat a volume of food. And the best way to do it is to eat a large volume of low calorie dense foods. Stand in Hope says, yes, the meal you eat today may not kill you today, but it could kill you tomorrow, or it could kill you a month from now, or it could kill you a year from now, or it could kill you at 68 when you should have lived to 88. So make good food choices. Make every choice you make be the best choice to help you live longer. You guys all have a great weekend. All of you fathers out there, have a wonderful Father's Day weekend. I'm looking forward to spending some time with my family, and I'm happy that I'm able to spend time with my family and I'm able to be active with them, because 2 years ago, I could do stuff with them, but it wouldn't have been to the extent that I will be this weekend. We will be outside in the swimming pool. We'll be hanging out. We'll be doing fun things instead of me sitting on my butt for the most part. So you guys all have a wonderful weekend. I may see you Monday. If not, I'll definitely see you Tuesday. It's going to be a short week anyways, because I'm not going to be streaming on Friday, but you guys all have a wonderful day. Button here eventually.